Welcome back to the daily Rambam. We are up to chapter 4 of Temidim and Umusafim. If you would like to know where that is in the Rambam, we are in luck because today is Wednesday and we can take a look at where we are, Thursday, excuse me. We will take a look at where we are up to in the Rambam. It's Mishnah Torah, 14 volume sets. We are in volume number 8, which deals with temple service. It has 9 subjects, 95 chapters. These are the 9 subjects. We learned about the Beis Hamikdash, about the utensils, about entering, forbidden offerings, how to bring offerings. That was a large one. We spent about 3 weeks on that. And now we're going through the Temidim Umusafim, the daily and added offerings. Oh, you don't see it. We are now up to the 6th topic, 6 out of 9, Temidim Umusafim, the daily and added offerings. Today we are up to chapter 4, so we'll be on this for about another week. Next week, please God, we will start the next section, which is disqualifications in the temple. But for today, chapter 4 of Temidim Umusafim. Okay, how do we do this? Here we go. Chapter 4. Now, let's look at it inside. We're going to learn all about the lottery. There's the sages say that when you learn about a mitzvah, it's considered as if you actually did the mitzvah. Maybe in the merit about learning about the lottery, maybe Hashem will consider it as if we've actually bought a ticket. Maybe we'll win and use all the money to good causes. Chapter 4, Temidim Umusafim. So, coming to and from the lottery, when did it take place and how were people able to participate? Sorry guys, this is only for Cardiff. Do we have any Cardiff in our midst? No? Okay, no. Well maybe you never know. Maybe soon you'll have a relative that will marry a Kohen. And then, either way, I'm sure you have a good friend that's a Kohen and you'd only want him to be blessed with such fortune. Now, you might say that I'm breaking the news to you, but really it's good news. We're not talking about financial fortunes over here. I mean, that's worthless. It's until you spend it on a good cause, it actually doesn't do anything. But we're talking about intrinsically valuable fortunes. So that is opportunities to be able to serve in Hashem's house, in the Beis Hamikdash. That is the lottery, my friends, that we are speaking about today. The lottery to have the opportunity to be able to serve Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash. Any of you are firstborn?
No.
Also not?
Yeah. My grandfather was a Kohen.
Okay. Fine. Beautiful.
My mother's side, obviously.
Yeah. Maybe when Mashiach comes, firstborns will also be Kohanim. Not sure about that. Now to the text. All of these services that were performed in the Beis Hamikdash on a daily basis were performed on the basis of a lottery. How would they conduct themselves? All of the Kohanim of the clan of that day, we spoke about how the Kohanim were divided into different weeks and different days. All the Kohanim of the clan of that day would enter the chamber of the hewn stone, particular space of the Beis Hamikdash, after dawn, and they would already be garbed in everybody would get dressed up in the clothing of the Kohanim, in their priestly garments. I guess that way there would be no delay. We'll see that there was some disappointment that would probably follow, but everybody would get dressed up in their Kohanic garb, their priestly garments, and then the Kohen that was appointed to supervise the lotteries stands with them, and they stand in a semicircle. The supervisor, the Kohen that's running the lottery, takes a hat from one of the priests and returns it to him. Somebody joined on 2 devices. Here we go. So what's that about? So the Kohen would just pick anybody and say, pass me your hat, and then he would pass it right back so his head is not left without a yarmulke. And that would be an indication that the count will begin with him, in the way that we will explain in halacha gimel and the third halacha. Now, the men selected to perform the services, whoever wins the lottery goes about collecting their fortunes, their fortunate opportunity to be able to serve at the Beis Hamikdash, and the remainder of the Kohanim are taken back to the attendants to remove the sacred garments from them, leaving them with just their pants until they put on their regular garments, and then they would remove the pants to serve at the Beis Hamikdash, and they would be returned to the lockers. So unfortunately, those Kohanim would not have the opportunity to serve. They got all dressed up and they were all ready, but they were not selected. So how would the lottery work? As we mentioned, the Kohanim would stand in a semicircle and they would decide on a number, 100, 1,000, or any other number that they would choose. Afterwards, the supervisor would say, stick out your fingers. Everybody stick out your finger. If one would 1 or 2 fingers, okay. I'll get back to this in a moment. If one would stick out 3 or 3, the 3 are counted. We'll discuss that in a moment. A thumb should not be stuck out in the temple because of the deceivers, but a thumb is a small and it is easy to stick it out and then bend over. If one sticks out a thumb, then the thumb is not counted. Okay, so what's going on over here? We have a circle. Everybody's lined up and everybody's sticking out 1 finger or 2 fingers, and they're ready for the count. Not thumbs. The supervisor begins counting for the priest who took his hat off, was identified by the removal of his hat and put it straight back on. And then he would count their fingers, going towards the right. And then he would go around and around the circle until he reached the designated number. So if there were only 30 Kohanim in the circle and the number was 1,000, then he would be doing the rounds. The person upon whose finger the counting was completed is the one who is chosen in the first lottery of the Beis Hamikdash. So this is not the type of lottery that you're familiar with. They would count fingers and throw out numbers. You would still need to guess your number, but a different type of number. It would be a number that they would choose, that they would count and see who the count ends up on. Now, why do they count the numbers that they've agreed upon by fingers instead of counting the people themselves? Because it is forbidden to count Jews. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
If you want to have a minyan in shul, you don't say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to say that Baruch Hashem, the shir is right now blessed with I could say tell you that there's 7, but when I'm counting, I shouldn't say 1, 2, and 3. Rather, if you're counting a minyan, you could use a pasuk. Hashia, es, abecha, varech, es, okay, we're missing the nasim adin oilam. What? Who's nasim adin oilam? No, those are the words of the pasuk. It means 8, 9, and 10. We're missing our last 3 people for the minyan. We don't count people because we don't want to cause an evil eye, which could cause negative things to happen. As it says clearly in Tanakh, and he counted them with lambs. We also know that the Jewish people are counted by the half shekel coins. So in this instant, yes.
Sorry, well, we always seem to follow the practice of saying not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
Yeah, that's another way of going about it. Correct. Yeah, that's another option. It's easier than saying a verse. You got to know the verse to be able to say it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay. Or you can learn the verse and say it. You'll impress all the millionaires. Okay, now 4 lotteries were carried out each day in the morning. The first lottery would be for the person who merited to remove the ashes from the altar that had been burning all night. Not only would he remove the ashes, he would also arrange the wood on the altar. He would bring the 2 logs of wood to the altar, which would be brought every day. And he brings a fire pan full of flaming coals from the outer altar to the inner altar, the golden altar, upon which the incense will be poured. So the first person cleans the altar of the burnt out coals and puts new fuel onto the altar, and takes from the burning coals and places them on the inner altar. That's job number 1. That's our first lottery winner. And that's definitely, he's very fortunate to have that. 13 Kohanim are chosen in the second lottery, according to the order in which they stand. What is implied? The supervisor tells them to stick out their fingers and count as explained. Now, what I'm wondering about, I'll just share with you now, and I didn't get a chance to look into it now, is we said that people can either stick out 1 finger or 2 fingers, right? We said not a thumb. Why not a thumb? Because the thumb you can easily pull away. It's too easy to move the thumb, easier than the other fingers. Thumb is like, or maybe you could just hold it out a little bit where people can't really see, is it in, is it out? And we said through that the person can manipulate the counting. Because if they added an extra thumb, extra finger, then it would cause the end person that's going to be the number 1,000 or whatever to be a person earlier or later. But then the Rambam said that we count fingers because we don't want to count people. So I'm trying to remember when I once looked into this. If a person put out 2 fingers, was that counted twice? I don't think so. I think he was still just counted as 1 person. I think when he said putting out 1 finger or 2 fingers was just a matter of choice. But on the other hand, if so, then what's the concern of manipulation? So unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. I'm not sure if a person put out 2 fingers or was counted as 1 number or as 2 numbers. Anyhow, we have to lottery number 2, and we have 13 Kohanim that are chosen according to the order in which they stand. How does that work? The supervisor tells them to stick out their fingers and counts. The one who is chosen first by the lottery, meaning the number ended on him, would have the job of shechting the korban, the daily korban of the morning. The person standing to his right would have the job or the mitzvah to receive the blood. The person to his right would have the privilege to clean the golden altar, the inner altar. The person standing to his right would have the privilege to clean the menorah. So yes, to clean the menorah. The person standing on his right and the next 9 people would each have the opportunity, the privilege to bring another part of the daily offering onto the ramp. As follows. The fifth person brings up the head of the daily offering and its right hind leg to the ramp. The 6th person brings up the 2 forefeet. The 7th person brings up the tail and the left hind leg. The 8th person brings up the breast of the neck. The 9th person brings up the 2 flanks. The 10th person brings up the inner organs. The 11th person brings up the flour for the additional offerings. The 12th person brings up the chavitin, which were also brought on a daily basis. We learned about them previously. And the 13th brings up the wine of the additional offering. The chavitin, I think, was the flour. So all of these people would be selected if they were to the right of the person that won the second lottery. For the third lottery, the supervisor announces to all the members of the clan of that day as follows. Whoever has never brought an incense offering, whoever has never had the privilege of bringing the ketoros, which was a very special mitzvah, should come and enter the lottery. And a person brought this offering and would bring down tremendous brachos for the rest of their lives. So he would start by asking, is there a member amongst us who has never had this opportunity? Whoever has never had this opportunity should participate in the lottery. The one chosen first in this lottery merited to offer the incense, to bring the ketores. For the fourth lottery, all the priests gathered, everybody, and the lottery is held to know who will bring the limbs up from the ramp to the altar. So earlier we mentioned person 5 through 13, they brought the different parts of the animal onto the altar, onto the ramp right next to the altar. And the fourth lottery winner would bring the limbs from the ramp onto the actual Mizbeach. He'd bring them all up. It was his privilege to bring all the limbs onto the Mizbeach itself. A different lottery was not held of the continuous offerings of the afternoon. Instead, whoever was chosen in the morning would have that task in the afternoon as well. An exception was made for the ketores. The incense is so special that another lottery was made for the right to offer it in the afternoon. Again, whoever had never had the privilege in their lifetime to bring the ketores from that group would participate in that second lottery for the ketores. And if everybody had already previously offered ketores, then they would all re-enter the lottery in the morning because everybody's already had a chance. And then whoever was selected for the morning would do it in the afternoon as well. Once everybody's had a chance, then we just say the same person does it twice, morning and afternoon. So that's on a daily basis. That's Sunday through Friday. Shabbos is special. Shabbos, we don't just daven Shachris, we daven Musaf too, because we have added offerings. Who would have the privilege of bringing them? So what were the additions of Shabbos? There was additional offerings and 2 bowls of frankincense that were offered. So who would win the opportunity to take care of that? So the lottery was held among the men of the clan of the watch that was leave. Okay, so the changeover from one week's group to the next week's group would happen on Shabbos. So the week going out, they would end on Shabbos. And then the week coming in would come in before Shabbos. So on Shabbos, you'd have 2 groups, and the changeover would be between morning and afternoon. In the morning, the group that was on their way out would participate in the lottery for the morning tasks of Shabbos. They would do the morning offering, the daily offering of the morning, the Tamid Shel Shachar, and the 2 sheep brought as the Korban Musaf. And the ones selected to perform the tasks for the continuous offering of the morning would perform those tasks for the 2 sheep brought as initial offering. So whoever was doing the daily offering would also do the same tasks of shechting or whatever it was of the Korban Musaf, of the sheep offerings that were brought for Shabbos. Then the watch that enters, the watch that's beginning their week, that starts on the week ahead, starting on Shabbos, would conduct another set of lotteries for the daily offering, the Tamid Shel Ben Arabayim, the afternoon offering. So the morning would be governed by the leaving group, and the afternoon would be governed by the incoming group. And both watches would participate in the division of the showbread in the way that we will explain. So every Shabbos, how many loaves, how many chalas would they have in the Beis HaMikdash? This is a trick question.
It was 12, wasn't it?
Very good. I thought somebody might say 2. Interestingly, it's on Shavuos that we have that they would bring an offering of 2 loaves of bread. But on the regular Shabbos, it would be 12 loaves of bread. You hit the nail on the head, or the bread on the butter. And so how would the showbread be divided amongst all the Kohanim? So we'll get to that in a moment. But for starters, before they would be able to eat that bread, there were 2 bowls of levada, frankincense that were brought. They also stood on top of the table with the showbread, and they would need to be offered on the fire. So first they would need to pour those spices onto the fire, and then and that would require salt, and then they would be able to go ahead and eat the bread. When would they offer these 2 bowls of frankincense onto the fire? After the Musaf, after the added offerings for Shabbos or Yom Tov. And 2 Kohanim would offer these 2 bowls. They were each like a korban in their own right. So how is the showbread divided? Okay, interestingly, we mentioned 2 Kohanim would have the privilege but we didn't speak about a lottery. So the commentaries say that there would be number person 14 and 15. 1 second. Okay, we are back here. No, now we're good. Okay, so how's the showbread divided? How are the lechem hapanim divided? Interesting translation, showbread. What happened? It's going on show? Window shopping? So in Hebrew, lechem hapanim means the breads with faces. They have pictures of faces on the bread? No. The bread actually faced each other. I don't know if you've learned about it yet, but the bread was shaped kind of like that. Like a bracket. It would come along the bottom and then up and then back in. So the two sides faced each other. That's why it's called the showbread. I don't know why in English showbread, but lechem hapanim was bread that faced each other. So how is it divided? How are the showbreads? How are the lechem hapanim divided? So on a regular Shabbos, so the watch that enters will receive 6, and the watch that's leaving received 6. Those that are entering divide the bread among themselves in the north, for they are preparing to carry out the temple service, and those who are on their way out would divide the bread in the south. Now, when a Yom Tov occurred during that week, so on a Yom Tov, all the Kohanim would be able to participate. The division of Shabbosim amongst the different groups of Kohanim as they were divided was for regular Shabbos, but on a Yom Tov, every Kohen would be able to participate. Now imagine if you live in South Africa and you're a Kohen and you get on a flight to go and be able to do your Kohen service, your Kohen duty for the week that you have. Imagine if Yom Tov starts on Monday. So it means that you're going to fly all the way from South Africa, and how much time will you have to serve? About a day and a half. Half Shabbos and then Sunday. By the time Monday came, it's already not unique to you. All the Kohanim can participate. So we're going to see that when a Yom Tov occurred during the week, the Kohanim needed an added incentive to still make their way out there. Before we get there, I'm jumping the gun. First of all, when Shabbos is on Yom Tov, so then everybody would divide it equally. Not just that group, but any group, any Kohen can come and participate. Sorry, I said equally. I don't know if it's equal. Yeah, equally. Similarly, if the first holiday of a festival falls on a Sunday, so now it's like a 2-day Yom Tov. It's both Shabbos is Shabbos, and Sunday is also like Shabbos. It's Yom Tov. So then everybody would share equally in both days. The Shabbos, not only the Sunday, but the Shabbos as well. It's like Yom Tov's been extended so that they get there early before Shabbos. Otherwise, because that's when they'd be there. They wouldn't be allowed to travel on Shabbos. So if the Yom Tov is on Sunday, even though if you said that they only were able to eat the bread on Sunday, what would they do all Shabbos? Because they need to be there in advance. So already Shabbos they'd be able to divide it. Or if Yom Tov ends on a Friday, again, Friday and Shabbos, that following Shabbos, they would also, all the other Kohanim would be able to participate, not just that day's Kohanim. And this practice is an ordinance of our sages who instituted so that the priests should delay their departure from Jerusalem so that they share in the division of the showbread. So we wanted the Kohanim that were there, if Yom Tov ends on a Friday, we want them to stick around till the end of Shabbos. So therefore we let them participate in the bread on the Shabbos that follows. In this way, if one of the members of the watch of that coming week would be delayed and not come in time, somebody's late, we'd have some backup from the watch that's on their way out, which is, I guess, is the other advantage of having that regular overlap. Now, if there's a day between Yom Tov and Shabbos, that relates to what I started speaking about before. If there's a day between Shabbos and Yom Tov, then it means that the Kohanim that are serving that week are only having a 1-day week long. So, for example, if the first day of the Yom Tov fell on Monday, or the last day of the Yom Tov fell on a Thursday, or Shavuos fell on a Monday or a Thursday, so the watch whose time was fixed that week receives 10 loaves rather than 6, and the watch which enters receives 2. So in order to, since they're only going to be there for 1 day, in order to give them added incentive, we let them have a much higher proportion of the breads. Okay. Sorry, let me get this clear. I may have just made a mistake. Sorry, it's the other way around. Since so few koyanim come, I don't know where I got the incentive thing from. Since so few koyanim come, therefore they don't need a full 6 loaves, they can suffice with 2. So in this scenario where he says that the watch whose time was fixed that week receives 10, meaning the one that had been serving would receive 10, the one that's coming, since it's only going to be a 2-day week, so they could suffice with 2. This requires some additional research. Finally, entering the chapter, the Kohen Gadol, he's a lucky guy. He always received from each watch half of the loaves that they received. Okay, so that means he would get how many?
6.
6, 3 and 3, right?
Yeah.
Because each watch got 6 and he would receive half of them, so a total of 6, yes. How do we know this? As the Torah says that it shall be for Aaron and his sons, half for Aaron and half for his sons. And a high priest never receives a portion of a loaf because that's not respectable. He receives full loaves. So that's, if you're a Kohen and Gadol, then you really had a special privilege. And now for the questions. Where in the temple was the lottery for the priests performed? You know, I actually glossed over that. Yes,
3.
that's right.
Number 3.
Number 3.
That's right. It's an interesting name. It's a hard one to forget. Well done over there. Would the priests wear the sacred garments while the lottery was performed?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes, remember we said everybody got dressed up, and those that didn't would then go and get changed.
Yes. Yes.
What was the first lottery in the morning for? What was the first lottery for? The priest who would offer the morning continuous offering, the priest who would remove the ashes of the inner altar, or the priest who would remove the ashes of the outer altar? Very good.
3.
3.
Finally, what was the fourth lottery for? The incense offering of the afternoon, the continuous offering of the afternoon, or the loaves to be brought from the ramp onto the altar?
Number 3.
Number
Very
3.
good. Wow.
3.
Nice to know that.
David, you're listening.
Yeah, everybody's listening. This is